Does this look familiar? You're up late, desperately trying to finish an assignment that's due tomorrow. Your desk is overflowing with notes, textbooks, and energy drinks. You can barely keep your eyes open. This is the third all-nighter this week. And no matter how hard you try, you feel like you're constantly drowning in work. Assignments pile up faster than you can complete them. Deadlines pass by in a blur. You're overwhelmed, exhausted, and just ready to give up. It's a cycle that you just can't seem to break. And you keep telling yourself that tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow comes and goes, and you still find yourself frantically scrambling at the last minute just to keep your head above water. There has to be a better way. If only you could get organized, stop procrastinating, and take control of your workload. If this sounds like you, you're not alone. Most students nowadays struggle with being overwhelmed and disorganized when it comes to their studies. The problem is that we often take on too much at once without proper planning. We don't know where to start or what to prioritize, so we just react to whatever task seems the most urgent in the moment. But this reactive approach causes us to neglect important long-term goals and projects. And instead, you need to move away from being reactive and rather focus on being proactive. And the key to becoming more proactive is taking control of your tasks. Or in other words, task management. Start by shifting your focus towards organization, prioritization, and intentional work rather than frantic last-minute scrambling. This will help you gain control over your workload, reduce the stress, and work towards your most important goals. So how do you make this shift? How do you avoid running on energy drinks and finally getting organized? Let me explain the strategies that will transform your approach to studying and help you thrive under pressure. So there are just 2 things to be mindful of when trying to improve your task management skills. Number 1, understand that you should prioritize your tasks by short-term versus long-term consequences. And number 2, learn how to incorporate long-term focused tasks into your schedule. Got it? Great. So for the first part, you need to realize that achieving your goals comes down to prioritizing the right tasks. And usually, the right tasks to achieve your goals are the long-term focused tasks, not the short-term task that's due tomorrow. For example, the mock essay that's due tomorrow. It's unlikely to be the task that changes your academic life. That mock essay on the causes of French Revolution, it's due tomorrow and it's urgent. I get it. And yes, understanding history is essential. But let's pause for a second. Imagine your ultimate goal is to be the top history student in your class or even your school. Does that essay on the causes of French Revolution bring you any steps closer to becoming that top history student? The essay feels like an urgent short-term task and is essential towards your next grade. But in the grand scheme of things, completing that essay may not necessarily move the needle towards becoming the top student in any subject. So why do you feel inclined to finish that essay first? Well, there is actually a term for this feeling. It's the idea called urgency trapping. Urgency trapping essentially means that when there's a lot of time pressure, a short circuit in our decision-making process happens and we just rush to complete the next due task. This tendency to just do the next due thing means that we often first complete the task which may not be conducive for our larger goals. Like that essay. You might then ask, then what are the tasks that actually help me become a top history student? Well, it's acquiring the foundational learning skills that actually makes you a better student of the subject. Skills that help you outperform your friends in any exam. An example can be the skill to identify your own weaknesses, be it in essay writing or other exam formats. Maybe in essay writing, you identify that you aren't able to link complex topics together, especially when an essay question asks for content from different chapters. Say, compare and contrast the development of Asian societies and Western societies. Now, that's a hard one. Or maybe you identify issues with structuring your essay and expressing yourself clearly. You might write it in a very convoluted way, choose irrelevant examples to back your point, or maybe you aren't evaluating your ideas enough in an essay. These foundational skills aren't just short-term tasks you check off your to-do list. They're fundamental skills that you must cultivate over time. These tasks help produce long-term benefits. It might be tempting to push long-term tasks to the side and think, I'll get to it when I have more time. But here's the truth. Time doesn't magically appear and tasks don't magically get themselves done. You have to carve out time deliberately. And the best way to do that is by prioritizing the tasks that align with the long-term vision. You need to invest time early to make things easier in the future. Imagine your tasks on a balancing scale. On one side, you have the short-term tasks, like finishing that essay. And on the other, the long-term ones, like enhancing how you self-diagnose your weaknesses. If you can choose to either have your homework done or the ability to accurately self-diagnose mistakes, which would you choose? Obviously, self-diagnosing the mistakes. This skill will save you loads of time in the future for every assignment. And not to mention, get better grades. Both are essential, but the key to truly succeeding, tipping the scales towards the long term. So as you jot down your to-do list, ask yourself, which of these tasks are going to get me closer to my ultimate goal? Which ones will still matter a month from now, a year, or maybe even 5? Remember, it's not about being busy, it's about being productive. Productivity comes from investing time into tasks which focus on the long term. So in part 2, this is now how you'd incorporate longer term tasks into your super packed schedule. First, think about your end goal. Before you jot down the tasks you'll be working on for the day or for the week, you must first decide on what you want to achieve. Whether you have a goal in mind drastically affects how you approach a similar task. Your goals can't be vague aspirations. Your goals have to be crystal clear. Your goals should be measurable and ideally with a clear time span. Instead of saying, I want to get better at history, say, each month, I want to make sure that I'm increasing my average mark in history by at least 5%. And by the end of the year, I want to rank at least top 5 in my class. Once you have set your goals, you need to know how to get there and when to schedule these tasks. Secondly, think about the skills and attributes needed to achieve that goal. Take a look at Jamie. Jamie strives towards being better than just the top 5 in class for history. Jamie wants to rank top in history. But as we mentioned earlier, simply completing her assignments is unlikely to get Jamie to her goals. Jamie needs to break down that goal of topping history into tangible building blocks, which is the fundamental skills and attributes that make a top history student. What you can do is think about how you'd actually study a new chapter or a topic from start to finish. And I suggest that you map out on a piece of paper each individual step that you're going to take. And you might end up with something looking like this. Number 1, listening in class and taking notes. Number 2, refreshing my knowledge after class by scanning through and understanding my notes. Number 3, reading my notes 2 to 3 times by trying to memorize them. And number 4, attempting the past year papers after memorizing my notes. Now that you've mapped out the process of how you study, you can slowly pick apart which is the weakest link. If you're stuck on this, I highly recommend watching the non-linear note-taking video by Archer, as it would identify many gaps that's normally overlooked by students, even hardworking and ambitious students. So through this process, Jamie realizes she needs to work on areas like Number 1, improving her note-taking skills by shifting from linear to non-linear notes to help build relationships between the ideas. Number 2, reducing her reliance on time-consuming past papers as revision and switching to advanced techniques like interleaving. And number 3, time management skills to deal with her procrastination. What happens when you have a rough list of long-term focused tasks to work on? Ask yourself, which is the most important to start working on now? Which one thing can affect your longer-term goals the most? How would you rank the 3 different areas Jamie needs to work on? And everyone will have a different answer. So if you were in her shoes, you might say, number 3, working on procrastination, because every other task is delayed if this is not solved. Or your friend might feel that working on number 1, note-taking skills is the most important since the procrastination issue is not even super severe. Everyone is going to have a different answer. But the key is that you need to prioritize which is most important for the long run. And finally, you need to allocate time to work on the longer-term tasks in your schedule. I recommend placing these tasks early in your day before you get too busy in the day. And another tip is to make sure that every day, or minimally every other day, has time devoted to work on tasks with a longer term focus. It doesn't have to be too long, maybe an hour or so a day. Working on long-term focused skills might feel slow now and a bit more tedious, but its benefits might not be immediately realized. It might even feel stressful to take time away from working on the immediate required tasks. But don't be controlled by emotions. The stress or the discomfort you feel is often linked to the lack of time you have. Interestingly, working on tasks or skills with a longer-term focus improves your fundamental learning skills. This means you increase the work capacity you have in the future simply because you're a more efficient learner. And being an efficient learner helps you do more in less time, which reduces that time crunch issue. Excellent task management is not just about getting things done right now. It's about being able to incorporate long-term tasks that also help you steadily nail future and larger goals. So you need to learn to start tipping the scales to include the long term. So let's recap what we've learned today. Prioritize tasks based on long-term impact, not just short-term urgency. This helps ensure you're working on what matters most to reach your big goals, and consistently schedule time for those long-term focused tasks. This prevents important tasks from slipping through the cracks. To help you put these strategies into action, download our free task prioritization checklist using the link below. This printable guide walks you through ranking tasks by long-term value and scheduling time for high-impact work. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which idea resonated most with your current situation? How will you apply these strategies to take your productivity to the next level? What's one long-term focused task you'll start scheduling time for consistently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend who you think might need some help with their task management. See you next time.